Hello everyone, this is Professor Robert Solis. Welcome to this next video lesson. We're going to talk about the C# switch statement, specifically dealing with characters. So let me go ahead and create a new project. Of course, that's going to be a C# Windows Forms application. I'm going to type in C# and we'll say switch 03 because this is part 3 grade comment. The idea is to have a user enter a grade such as A, B, C, D, or F, and then we'll come back with statements such as excellent, above average, average, so forth and so on. So let me go ahead and drag and drop a button, a label, and a text box to the form. Let me take that label and change the font property, specifically the size, to 12 points. And then I'll move this to the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to change the text property to enter a letter grade, colon. Well, then I'm going to place a text box next to that label. But first, let me go to the size property, type in 12. Then I can go ahead and position this as follows. Notice the magenta underline, indicating that the text in this text box is going to be at the same level as the label. Let go. And then finally, I have this button. Let me go ahead and double click, type in 12, and let me resize this to something like this. That's a little bit too big, so that looks pretty good. And that'll simply be our submit button. Next, I need to place a label down here to indicate what the message is. So I'll simply I'll select this label, Control-C, Control-V as in Victor. That's copy and paste. And then I'll change the auto size to false and the border style to single, fixed single. And then I'll position this like this, position this over here. That looks pretty good. I want to make sure that that text is centered. So we're going to go over here to the text align property. I'm going to make that middle center. And then finally get rid of the text. So I'll just simply double click on the text property, hit backspace, press enter. Now I can go ahead and resize the form. So I'll just resize it to something like this. Looks pretty good. Let me get rid of the minimize and the maximize box. And then finally, let me change the form caption. It says form 1 for the text, but we're going to say letter grade comment. All right. Now let's go ahead and give names to the various objects. So over here, we're going to go to the name property, and I'm going to type in txt letter grade. This will be the btn submit button. And then finally, we have the label down here, and we're going to call that LBL result. All right. Let me save my work by clicking Save All. Let me double check over here. TXT letter grade, btn submit, LBL result. Everything's looking good, so we're now ready to go into the code area. I'm going to double click on the submit button. Let me minimize the toolbox, and I'm going to also minimize the properties panel. And now I'm ready to type my comments. So we're going to say declarations, get user input calculations output. Let's go over here to the declarations section. And you have to ask yourself, what is it that I need to give to the user? What is it that the user gives to me? They're going to give me a letter grade. I'm going to give them a message or some sort of an output. So over here, we're going to create a character called user grade. Now, a character is something that you enclose in single quotes. So for example, if I wanted to assign the letter A to user grade, I could do something like this. Notice the single quote. We don't use double quotes. Double quotes indicate a string. And you can't put a string into a character. A character is a single character. This is a character. This is a character. This is a character, right? But in this case, I don't want to initialize it to anything. We'll just leave it blank like that. Now, I also want to create a string output. If you wanted to, you could assign it to nothing. And that's it. So we'll go over here to the get user input, and we'll say user grade is going to be assigned. First of all, I'm going to need to convert to character, because what's happening is this thing has a string, specifically the txt letter grade dot text. That is a string. I can't put a string into a character, so I need to convert that to a character, and then I can put it over here. By the way, let's do this. Dot to upper. It could very well be that the user enters a lowercase a, b, c, d, f over here. I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the text from this text box, but first I'm going to convert it to uppercase. Then I will convert this to a character, and then I will assign it into a variable called user grade, which of course is a character, right? So that takes care of the user's possibility of maybe entering a lowercase letter. Then I'm going to use the switch statement, and we're going to consider the user grade. Specifically, what I want to do is to consider all the different possibilities, such as the case that the user entered the letter A. Notice the single quote. If that is the case, then my output is going to be assigned the statement excellent. And then I'm going to break. I have to break for these cases. I can't fall from one case to the next. All right, so in this case, maybe the user entered the letter B. And if that's the case, then the output is going to be assigned the statement above average. And then, of course, we break to the possible next case. Well, let me just do some copying and pasting. I'll just take this over here, Control C, and then I'll press Enter over here, Control V. That's going to be for C, that's going to be D, and then that's going to be for F. Okay, so over here, let me change that to a capital letter C. And over here, we would just simply say average. So I'll get rid of that above. Over here, this is the letter D, and instead of above, we're going to say below average. And then finally, we have over here, let me double click, we have the letter F. And if that's the case, then we change that message to poor. Now, it could be that the user enters something other than A, B, C, D, or F. Like maybe they enter the letter E. Well, if that's the case, then we want to use the default case, and we simply set the output to invalid input. We're just letting the user know something invalid was entered, and then we'll simply say break. That way, if the user enters any other letter other than A, B, C, D, or F, then invalid input is going to be the catch-all. All right, and then for the output section, once we're done, we are going to assign to this label, specifically this label down here, which is LBL result, we are going to assign to it whatever the output message is that we've established over here in our switch case statement. So let me save all, run the program, and let's see what happens. So let me start off with a lowercase a, and as you can see here, excellent comes up. If I type in uppercase A, click submit, same thing. How about B? Good. C, D, F. What if the user enters the letter E? Invalid input. Great. So we have now a way of determining what the comment is based on the user entry. They can, of course, enter uppercase or lowercase letters. We've got that covered because we're going to change everything to an uppercase, as you can see over here. That will take care of establishing the cases for uppercase A, B, C, D, and F. And that is it. So this is Professor Robert Solis. Hope this video lesson was helpful. You guys have a good day. We'll see you next time.